Today I will share with you fun Swedish top 10 tips to learn Swedish. Find the fun in Swedish. And also that's the reason why we're called Fun Swedish. Focus on what's meaningful for you. With very little things, you will learn a lot. This picture's a bit weird, but I just want to show you because it shows very well.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's LinkedIn Live. My name is Greg, and I'm the founder of New to Sweden, and we run this channel working in Sweden to help all of you try to get all the tips and tricks you need to be able to find work in Sweden. And today we're super happy to be joined by Daniela Horquist. All right, that's my Swedish in practice. From Fun
good.
Swedish, and I'm super excited to have you here, Daniela, and I'm eager to learn a lot more about how to learn Swedish really effectively and better than I've been doing in the past. So Daniela, please, I'll just pass it on to you and you can introduce yourself and then get us started with this lovely presentation you prepared.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm very happy to be here. It's an honor. And I really like what you do, so it was very easy for me to say yes to this. But yeah, I will start with a presentation. So today I will share with you fun Swedish top 10 tips to learn Swedish. I will start with a presentation about me, so you know who I am, and also maybe why you should listen to this. But my name is Daniela, for those who doesn't know. And I'm the co-founder of Fun Swedish and also the language school Enjoy Learning and Never Stop, who is behind Fun Swedish. And I grew up bilingual because my mom is from Argentina and my dad from Sweden, but I was born and raised in Sweden. But at home we spoke Spanish, Swedish, and also some English. And I also speak Italian because I have studied for many years. So I grew up in a very multicultural, an environment where
multilingual home.
Yeah, multilingual. Thank you, multilingual home. And I started teaching when I was 18 years old, and I actually started teaching Spanish to Swedes. And I did this for many years. And I also worked for the Spanish embassy here in Stockholm for a while and different Spanish-speaking embassies in Stockholm. But then one day I got a chance to teach Swedish to some international employees for a multinational company. And I love this experience a lot. And at the same time, my now husband, he moved from Argentina to Sweden. And he also started his Swedish language journey. And kind of together we realized that there is a lack of fun Swedish courses and fun Swedish material. So that's how we created Fun Swedish, which is our name on our social platforms. And the last thing about me is that I'm also a language student. So, and I have been for many, many years. I've studied different languages. And I know how it feels to learn a new language. It's hard in the beginning, and you need to work a lot on yourself to be able to become good at the language. I'm currently studying Greek and Japanese, and these are pretty difficult languages, in my opinion. And I also try to apply these 10 tips I will share with you now to myself when I learn these languages. So yeah, that's a bit about me. I also want to tell a bit more about Fun Swedish. So again, like I mentioned, Fun Swedish was founded by me and my now husband, Leonel from Argentina. And now our method and philosophy is a mix between my teaching experience, like what learning strategies work best for my students, and also how Leonel learned Swedish the best way. And together we aim to improve the Swedish learning experience, making it more fun, engaging, and more effective. And by this also helping people integrate to the Swedish society. We need people here, we need you. So we also need to take care of you and help you with the integration. And learning Swedish is a big part of becoming part of the Swedish society. So that's a little bit also our mission. And nowadays we are more than just 2 people. We have 5 teachers behind Fun Swedish, since we also have courses. And we also have the editors and other people behind. And we are very active on social media. I will talk a bit more about our social media later.
That's such a nice way to put it. You're
Yeah,
active on
we're
social
active. We try
media.
to be everywhere. But yeah, that's a little bit about us. So far, any question? Great.
No, nothing in the comments yet, but
Okay.
I do. It's a good time to tell the audience. Please feel free to add your questions to the comments. The people who left their comments on a previous post, I copied those, so we'll be asking those towards the end.
Yeah.
But for anybody else, if you have any questions, just pop them in the comments, and we'll be glad to take them.
Yeah.
Thanks, Danielle.
Exactly. So, okay, let's start with our tips. Before we starting, I just want to say again that Fun Swedish courses, our courses, material, teachers, and social media posts are very influenced by these 10 tips of learning Swedish. And actually, I could have written more tips, but I had to limit myself to 10 today, and because these are for me the most important ones. So let's start with tip number 1, and that is find the fun in Swedish. And also, that's the reason why we're called Fun Swedish and nothing else. And why it's so important to have fun is because otherwise you will quit. And also, if you have fun, you will want to do it a lot more. And also, another thing is that positive feelings like laughing or just feeling well, like you're in a good environment while learning, will help you remember better what you learn. So it's very important to have these positive feelings, like having fun. I want to show you some examples of how this can look for different people. Sorry, one more thing. Also, you need to find what is fun for you. I mean, what is fun exactly can depend on the person. But here are some examples. So for Lionel, the co-founder of Fun Swedish, and also my now husband, he learned English, because this can also be applied to other languages, by playing video games. He was a teenager in Argentina back then, and he loved to play Final Fantasy VIII. And he needed to learn more English in order to understand better the game. So since he loved playing Final Fantasy VIII so much, this made him look into an English dictionary 20 times per day. So it was the fun that made him do that. And there's no other way of convincing a teenager to do that other than with fun. And this also applies to adults, I would say. Another example with fun is from our followers. We have many followers who are really into this Netflix series called Young Royals. It's a Swedish series on Netflix. And they were like different communities. We have like Young Royal fans in Brazil, in Japan, in different areas. And they love learning Swedish because it brings them closer to their favorite TV show. And also, they can watch this TV show for so many hours, so many times, that they learn Swedish this way.
I have to say, I never heard of this show. I saw your slides.
Okay.
So
Yeah, but I can really recommend it, and it doesn't have to be this series. It can be any series you like to watch. Like that's a way if you find it fun. But I recommend it, especially if you want to learn like slang and how teenagers and also adults talk. It's a very nice show. Young Royals. Yeah, exactly. And since again, it's so important to have fun while learning, that's also why we try to create post content and also material for students that is fun, because again, that's how they will learn better and also enjoy the experience. And these are some posts that we have made that all were pretty popular. For example, the first one is just a way to, with a meme, to describe, what you should say, what is the correct version of this sentence. And this other picture is just me saying, pronouncing words that sounds very similar. I guess that's why it's a bit fun, maybe. At least it got many, many views. So it was really popular. And the last photo is this famous cat. Maybe some of you have already seen it. And this basically tells you that you need to look like this cat in order to get this Swedish vowel right. Have you seen this before, Greg? This cat?
No, but I was so amazed to see you had 3.2 million views.
well, we can talk about that as well later.
Wow.
But yeah, but yeah, again, you need to find the fun for learning Swedish and also to make good content. But anyway, so that's why we try to create this post. And again, you will remember better if you have something fun while you're doing it.
Good point.
So, okay, I think, so let's see if I forgot something. So our next point is focus on what's meaningful for you. This is very important because you learn better if it's meaningful for you. For example, maybe you want to learn Swedish because you have a Swedish partner, or maybe you have a child that was born in Sweden and you want to be able to understand them better or communicate with them. So if you learn maybe more like love words or any kind of phrases that you would use when you talk to them, that would be useful when you talk to them. If you focus on this vocabulary, these phrases, you will learn better because it's meaningful for you to be able to talk to them. And same thing applies also if you want to make friends in Swedish. Maybe you learn more slang Swedish. If you want to work in Sweden, you maybe learn more work Swedish. And then I also have a kayak here. I will tell you a bit why I have a kayak. So basically, I had once a student in my early days when I started teaching Swedish, and he didn't seem to enjoy the material I was bringing to him. He didn't like it so much. Until one day that I found out that he loved kayaks and also like boats, boat life in Sweden. He was obsessed with boats. So I started bringing him material about kayaks and boats in Swedish. And just by doing this, he was more engaged, he learned faster because learning about boats and kayaks was meaningful for him because that way he can talk to his Swedish friends about boats and all these things while he was doing this activity that he did very often. So that was meaningful for him. So again, focus on what's meaningful for you. And also, like we always try to get to know our students very well and also our followers, like especially why they want to learn Swedish. And by this information as a student and also someone creating content, we can make material and content that's meaningful for them. And by this, they will learn faster.
Oh, that's amazing.
Thank you.
There are actually lots of comments now and lots of questions, but there's
really?
one that's a little bit more relevant to this topic, and then
Okay.
we'll grab the
Yeah.
other ones a little bit later. So
Okay.
this is from Menno.
Okay.
I'll just read it out, maybe.
Yeah,
But best show ever, I would say. On this, do you have any other TV shows in Swedish that I could watch?
Good. So I guess you're talking about, yeah, she was talking about Young
Oh, Young
Royals, right?
Royals. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's there are coming many new TV shows on Netflix, Swedish TV shows. I don't know what's the most popular nowadays, but many of my students liked Kärlek och anarki, Love and Anarchy.
Okay.
Was a very popular one. And what else? Oh, there's so many. I'm going to talk more about other TV shows as well later in the program.
Yeah, we can take it later.
And maybe we can also, I can some way put a list or something with more research.
I was just going to suggest the morning news. I think they have it on Svenska as well, and that's
exactly. And if you live in Sweden, you can check SVT Play, where you also can find many different TV programs or shows or series that are free if you don't have Netflix.
Cool.
Thanks. Okay, thank you for the question. I will continue. So again, focus on what's meaningful for you. Another example was Lionel. For him, it was very important to work in Sweden. So he focused a lot on work Swedish. And he focused so much on this, so he was able to hold an interview in Swedish after 3 months. And he actually got the job as well. So what he did, instead of memorizing words like jag har en bok, I have a book, he tried to memorize words that was meaningful for him, like jag har 5 års erfarenhet. I have 5 years of experience, because this was important and meaningful for him to get the perfect job interview in Swedish. So that was meaningful for him. This picture is a bit weird, but I just want to show you because it shows very well how Leonel's Swedish was in the beginning. His
this
work
is a picture
Swedish.
Of Lionel as well. Right?
No, it's not Lionel. It's not him. But it was basically his work Swedish was so good, but the rest wasn't. But it was fine because his goal was to be able to speak in Swedish for work. And he can learn the rest later. And he did. He did learn the rest later. So just to show you. So again, focus on what's meaningful for you first. Okay, tip number 3. Expose yourself to Swedish. And And again, so try to be in contact with Swedish as much as you can. And this doesn't mean that you need to sit with a book, textbook for hours and hours and hours, because normally that's not so much fun or meaningful. So, I mean, depends on the person, but try to find what's fun and meaningful to you and get to expose to it for many, many hours or very often. And again, it can even be like passive, being exposed passively. Like having some TV in the background, Swedish TV in the background, watch some Netflix series, Young Royals, or some other documentaries, podcasts. What did you say, Greg? Sorry.
No, I was just shaking my head at Young Royals.
Yeah, you need to watch that. Everyone is talking about it, and also the third season is out now, so it's a conversation for the fika break. So, so watch it. But yeah, so again, try to find a format that works for you. Books, reading books, listen to the news, even just listening to Swedish people in the street, on your way to work. That's also a way to exposing yourself to Swedish. So by doing this, you're already studying. So that's so important. So don't just sit with the books and think that's the only way to learn Swedish. Just expose yourself. And it's so important because the more you listen to Swedish, the more you will understand. And try to listen, even if you don't understand everything in the beginning, because in the beginning, you don't understand everything. But you will more and more, because when you're listening to Swedish, even passively, you're training your ears to identify new sounds. Especially in Swedish, we have this, all these vowels, and you're kind of starting to hear this. Your brain is getting used to them. And also try to, like my students that learn very fast, they always try to imitate a lot the sounds they hear. And also in our lessons, we do a lot of like choir, like I say the word, they say after me, right, directly after, because then you train your mouth. I don't know, if you hear a Swede saying precis in the street, a word we say a lot, precis, try to say it. Maybe you won't get this nasal E in the beginning, but try to say it until you get it. So train your mouth a lot, because again, learning a new language, especially a language that's very different from the language, means that you need to practice new muscles. You need to train new muscles that you haven't trained before. So listen and imitate. Yes, great.
I know this question is going to depend on whoever the language skills of the person, but is there a recommended amount of hours you would recommend, like per day or per week? Like, what's the best schedule, sort of,
to learn Swedish? Yeah, I mean, depends a bit like what you learn, because if you sit and just learn words that are not meaningful for you, I don't think it will come to your head. But still, I think it's hard to say. But of course, the more you're exposed to it, the better, the faster you will learn. Yeah. So yeah, as much as you can.
1 hour a day listening to
maybe. And I know some people say also, I don't know if it's true, but it's very good to do it early in the morning when you wake up and before bed. Some people say that it's a good way for the brain to remember.
That's good.
So maybe do some Duolingo before morning and then after going to bed, or read a book or watch a series. Yeah. Okay. So that was tip number 3. Tip number 4, I call this attack all fronts. And this is also something I can notice that with my students, and also for Leonel, you learn faster if you combine different inputs. This means that, try to learn by seeing visual things. That's also why we use a lot of visuals with Fun Swedish. And also listening, reading at the same time, with subtitles, and some kind of like try to understand the context, and also learn grammar rules as well, because you kind of need this. It's not the most fun for everyone, but you need this to understand how the language is built. And so try to attack all this at the same time. And the best way, if you can combine some kind of way where you can have this at the same time. TV shows are very good with this, because if you watch a TV show, even if you can't understand what they're saying, maybe you can understand with the text because of the text. And if you can't understand the text either, maybe you can understand just by the visuals what's going on. So try to attack all fronts or do something that has this at the same time. We're going to talk a bit more about this tip. Yep. So again, like I mentioned, TV shows that have both audio, text, and Swedish are very good. And so Lionel, he learned a lot with soap operas, Swedish soap operas, and this can also be like,
I'm learning
serious.
so much about Lionel right now.
Yeah. He also sometimes he'll have this presentation as well from a learner's perspective. Now you get like the teacher perspective as well. But yeah, and also kids shows are also very good to learn with, because both soap operas and kids show, they're very visual, especially kids shows, very visual. And they also have lots of face expressions. They have characters acting out situations. Especially kids shows, they have a more simpler language, and also they repeat a lot. So Lionel, he used a lot of kids shows to learn Swedish, and it helped a lot. And also a good thing with shows that you can add subtitles for backup input. And also again, like the story, the context, what's happening will make you understand most things, even if you don't know every word. And here I have this this soap opera from the 90s that's called Rederiet. It's a very popular Swedish. It was a very popular Swedish soap opera about this boat that goes between Finland and Sweden, and all the drama, love stories that happen on this boat. And Lionel watched this show. There was like 300 episodes. He watched the whole of it, and he learned everything. He learned about business, because it's a lot about business in this show, about love, of course, about friendship, about drama, hate, everything. Soap operas normally have a bit of everything. And I also told my student, who was obsessed about boats, to watch this show, and he also enjoyed it a lot. But it can be this show or anything that works for you. So yeah.
When you talk about adding subtitles, do you add subtitles in Swedish? Is that better, or is it better to add subtitles in the language that you know?
I think it depends a bit on your level. We're going to talk about as well. If you're a very beginner, then maybe you need to have just listen to Swedish and then have in your own language. If you're more advanced, then you can have subtitles in Swedish instead. Depends on your level. If it gets, we're going to talk about it later, but if it gets too difficult, you might quit. So try small steps. Just want to show you again why it's so good to have TV shows. Here from this 19th show, you have this, it says here, maybe you want to sleep. Maybe you don't know what sova means, but you can just understand by the image that is something with sleeping. So this is an example of why it's so good to have visuals and text and sound. And again, if you don't know, this is from SVT Play. You can find this on SVT Play. And on SVT Play, there's a way to put subtitles. Here in Swedish, we say undertexter for subtitles. Okay, so just to show you some practical things. And then also, like in our Swedish courses, we also try to always combine teaching the rules and also, try to help the students get exposed to Swedish. And we think it's so important to combine these two parts of the language, because you need the language rules, the grammar, the word order, to understand better the language structure. So you can also, create sentences. But you also need, you also need to learn how Swedish really talk, slang, abbreviation, reductions, so you can understand better when you get exposed to it. So especially if you want to learn faster. For example, some people only study with Duolingo, which is good, but then they don't get maybe the grammar explanations so much. That's why they don't learn so fast. Or the opposite, maybe you just study with a grammar book, but then you won't be able to talk slang or understand when you're getting exposed to it. So try to attack all fronts, rules and exposure. This picture shows also very well. With rules, you will have like the structure of a car, but it won't take you anywhere. With exposure, you will have a bike, you will go somewhere, but very slow. But if you have both rules and exposure, you will have a super fast car. So try to focus on both things. And in our courses and also on content, we try to mix these two things, because we think both are important to be able to learn faster. Good. Any questions so far?
Maybe we'll take the questions at the end.
Okay.
But for sure, those of you in the audience, it's a good reminder time to add some more questions in the comments if you like. And as soon as the presentation's over, Daniela can go through a bunch of them with you and try to answer as many as we can.
Exactly. So remember these pictures. Okay, then this is a bit we talked about. Depends on your level. When I mentioned this before. So tip number 5 is find the right level for you. This is very important. I don't know if you're familiar with the zone of proximal development. I will
Nope.
explain it. It's like a
Yes.
math term, but it basically the zone of proximal development is like a sweet a sweet point or the perfect place or zone or level where it's not too difficult nor too easy for you. For example, in this picture, you can see that and this can be applied for learning languages. For example, if you learn a language and it's too difficult, you will just feel stressed, you will feel anxiety, and you will want to quit. But it can also be too easy for you, and then it becomes boring, and then you also want to quit. So instead, you need to find the zone of proximal development. This is the perfect point, the perfect level for you.
The sweet spot.
The sweet spot, exactly. That was the word I was looking for. The sweet spot, yes. Okay, and I will also explain this a bit more. So again, if you stay in the comfort zone, so maybe your Swedish is already very good, but you still not putting Swedish subtitles. You're getting like lazy, just reading subtitles in English. Then maybe you're in the comfort zone. And maybe this is why you're not progressing very fast. And also, I know some people experience this sometimes in SFI when they study, here at school in Sweden. And they find maybe the teachers or in the lessons they repeat too much, so it becomes boring. So they quit because it's too boring for them. Or on the other hand, you can also be in the panic zone, which is when you push it too hard, when it becomes too difficult. And this just means that you are confused all the time and you progress slower. And this can be a very stressful experience, and you might also quit. I know also some students, they tell us that this happened to them as well on SFI, especially when they're very beginners and maybe this teacher only speaking Swedish to them the first day without checking that they understood everything.
Yeah.
So this can be a very stressful experience for some people, and they quit. So yeah, try to avoid this comfort zone and panic zone if you want to progress faster with Swedish.
I think I would just like to add as well, sometimes I find there's like an interest as well, like sort of alluding to what you were speaking to earlier, but like my SFE experience was very focused on structure and grammar when that's not what I wanted. It's not what I was interested in. And so they lost me as a student fairly fast as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very common. And I also experienced this when I have studied languages. So that's when you kind of need to maybe, can we please learn this to your teacher or maybe you need to just change course or something. But yeah, in our Swedish courses, we always try to find this zone of proximal development for optimal learning. So you learn the best, and so you don't waste your time. And so you have fun and don't feel panic or bored in the lesson. Very important. So find the right level for you. Okay, next point, tip number 6. Focus on communication. And this is very, very important. Basically, it's focus on communication and not perfect grammar, especially when you're a beginner. So I have written here, children learn fast. I think many people know, like, oh, children, they learn languages so fast. And it's not because they are super smart or they have super brains. They're like better than adult brains. It's just that they focus on communication and not perfect grammar. So, for example, if a child is hungry, maybe they can't say to the parents, I am hungry. Maybe they just say eat or bread, something that is communicating that they are hungry. And normally the parents, they understand this. And as an adult, you can do the same, especially if you're more on a beginner level. Try to just use the words Daniela, hungry, now. Just by saying this, I think the person will understand. So it's, of course, not easy as an adult to accept this, but we notice that our students who progress really fast, they try to say this, even if it's not perfect, and it's so much better than not saying anything at all. So again, think like a child. And also children, they are okay with making mistakes. You need to make mistakes when you learn a language. It's so important. And again, And children do this as long as they get what they want, basically. And also, children are okay with not understanding everything. So, yeah,
Do you think that other people are willing to listen to somebody who's speaking in a
we're
very
gonna
like
talk about that as well soon.
yeah,
But yeah, of course, we're gonna talk about that. You can find people that don't, but you should try to avoid those people.
got it.
We're gonna go back to this. Very good question. Okay, and again, tip number 7. This also has to do a bit with this, with be able to be a child, and for that, and to think like a child, you kind of need to surrender your ego a little bit, or your ego, or your insecurities. Like especially adults, we often look for perfection. We want to be able to say this sentence the perfect way, as we can say it in our mother tongue. But when you learn a language, you need to kind of let go and just accepting that it's okay to make mistakes. And it's okay to not understand everything. And remember, it's not like life or death, in life or death, yeah, in most situations. And you also need to kind of accept a season of learning, which means that not being able to express yourself fully, and being comfortable with being uncomfortable, all these things. And also, it's okay to lose your personality for a while. I know maybe you won't be the most fun person in the room in Swedish like you are in your own language. You maybe because you won't be perhaps able to make all these jokes like you can do in your own language. So you just need to accept that this is just for a while until you become better at Swedish. Then you can build a new personality, kind of. So
lesson.
again, there's a lot of psychology behind learning a language. And again, we noticed that the students that progress very fast, they follow this pattern. They just try. But it's not always easy, of course. We're going to talk more about this. So now comes what I talked about before. Tip number 8, practice with the right people. And this is so important because, again, first of all, we always tell this to our students, it takes 2 people to communicate, at least 2 people. So it's not all up to you. So have this in mind. And again, many people meet these like wrong people to talk to. And these are normally these people that laugh at you if you speak like a child, or they are perfectionists, they correct you all the time. And so much that they don't even care what you're saying. They just want to correct you. And this is absolutely the wrong kind of practice partner. And they also lack of patience. So if you speak to this person, try to avoid them because they have a problem, not you, in most situations. So again, if someone wants to communicate, they will make an effort. I mentioned this before, Greg. I was in Japan 2 weeks ago, and my Japanese is so beginner level, and most people don't speak English very well. But it was so easy to communicate with them because they were so kind, so helpful, so patient. They really wanted to communicate with me. So it was possible. So they were really the right practice partner. And you can also find them in Sweden. But and just so you know how a perfect or the right practice partner is, they will encourage you. They will, well done, a little bit like that. They will be patient. They will wait for you to maybe try to find the right words. And they will focus on communication, not perfection. As long as you're being able to say something that I understand, it's fine. And then they will also they will help you fill in the words you don't know how to say, or correct you in a nice way. And I also think that this kind of course depends on the person, but I think that the best way of correcting someone is to show them instead of point out the mistakes. So instead of saying, this was wrong, it's better to just repeat the same sentence as the person said, but with the correct preposition or the correct word. Or this is normally the best way, because then you don't stop the communication flow. And so try to find these people. And again, a good person to practice with, they have more like a parent-like attitude. They, again, like a parent, if a child says something wrong, like a wrong preposition, they won't say, no, you used the wrong preposition, because the child doesn't even know what a preposition is. They will just repeat the same thing. Oh, you mean this? Yes, of course. And, and then the child and also the adult will pick up the right thing by this. And so our teacher, we always try to do this when we correct. Comments? Anything?
Yeah, there is actually from Minnow again. So I'll just pop it up
nice.
here. When it comes to practicing with someone, is it better to communicate with a friend who's also learning the language, progressing together, or with a Swede?
Okay, that's a good question. I think that both can work. I know that sometimes if you go to like I've been to language cafes with other people that also learn a language, and it feels so good to talk to them because, again, both are patient. Maybe you don't hear the perfect pronunciation from them, but
Mm.
you're still able to talk, and they will kind of help you in the beginning to build up your confidence to talk until you meet maybe the chance to talk to the Swede. So I think it can be good as well, to be honest. Both can be useful. Very good question. And again, I just want to say this as well. People that tend to be bad to practice with, I don't know if you agree, but your spouse and partner are often not the best person to practice with. At least we have many students who said it's like, oh, I can't talk to my husband in Swedish, it doesn't work, or the opposite, a wife. And sometimes there's something also about psychology there, like your spouse or partner, they don't want to treat you as a child. So there's something like
Like the
there that
power dynamic
yeah,
changes.
exactly.
Yeah.
The power dynamic is very important. And of course, you can be very lucky to find the perfect husband. It's very patient or wife. But in most situations, it's not like that. And often they don't know, they're not teachers either. So they're not able to perhaps answer your questions properly. And honestly, even I was super patient with my students, but in the beginning, I wasn't the best practice partner to Lionel. I can even in the beginning, I was like, oh, I told you this 100 times and you never remember. I was horrible to him. And then I
Yes.
realized that this was absolutely the worst thing I can do. And I have to also not be like that. But again, spouses, partners, often not the best person. And also also learning, practice with your boss or if you have employees. Also, there's a power balance here that sometimes can make it harder to practice with them because maybe you don't want to show weakness or they don't want to show weakness, these kind of things. But people that tend to be good to practice with, it can be a good teacher, because their job is to be patient and help you. A friend, and like this previous question, it can be a friend, maybe a Swedish friend. It can also be someone that also learning Swedish, because at least you will get the chance to practice, and that's better than not practicing at all. A child, maybe they're not very patient, but they focus on communication. So as long as you're able to communicate with them, they will understand, they will help you. What do you say, Greg? Have you had good experience with
No, I'm the worst example ever for trying to do this because
Okay.
I lapse
Yeah.
into English all the time,
Yeah.
constantly. But I do. It's good that you took this pause because there's a really nice comment from Debbie and a
Okay.
question attached to it. So I'm just going to pop it
Yeah.
up here. I'm
Oh.
not even going to try to say that in Swedish,
Mm.
but broad tips so far, Daniela. I found that many
Mm.
Swedes want to practice speaking English with me. Do you have a polite tip to use to encourage a Swedish conversation, even if I'm not that good in speaking Swedish?
Yeah, Debbie was actually one of our students, so it's happy
Oh,
to
okay,
see her
great.
comment.
Yeah.
Yes, and actually, if you wait to tip number 10, I will tell you this. I will
Okay.
answer this. So it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
Very good question. I will get back to you. Just last person that's good to talk with, sometimes a kind stranger. You can, in Sweden there's many like old people that feel a bit alone, maybe a neighbor, and they have time, they're patient, they want to get to know someone. So they can actually be very good practice partners.
Mhm.
And you can also, there's like this pen, you can do like volunteering for a retirement home, and he's normally very kind to you and patient.
Oh,
So some
nice.
tip.
Hmm?
Yes, okay, we're almost there. Tip number 9, and this is called important things first. And I'm going to use another like mathematical term, but this
Hmm?
thing called Pareto principle, which basically means that this, like with very little things you will learn a lot. So
Hmm.
for example, with languages, there's so much to learn, there's so many things you need to learn, but you actually don't need everything to be able to communicate in Swedish. So what you need to do is to focus on the important things first. So what is most important in the Swedish language? I will explain this more.
Hmm?
For example, pronunciation. Pronunciation is something that's very important in Swedish because it's very hard, and it's also where there's a lot of confusion. Um, for example, a lot of people they focus a lot on N and net, getting N and net right, which is also hard, but it isn't so important as pronunciation. For an example, if I say jag vill äta en äpple instead of jag vill äta ett äpple, which means I want to eat an apple. But even if I mix up N and net, I'm still able to understand. As a Swede, you will understand, okay, this person wants to eat an apple. But if you mix up jag vill äta glas instead of glass, which means I want to eat glass versus I want to eat ice cream, there will be confusion, there will be misunderstandings, laughter, So important thing in Swedish is to focus on pronunciation. And it doesn't matter if you're 100% beginner or very advanced. Everyone needs this. And Swedes, unfortunately, we struggle with hearing broken Swedish. So it can just be a little bit of, not the perfect o, u, and then we're like va, va. So right. That's why that's why it's so important to focus on pronunciation. And we even have a special course for this just because we noticed that it was so important.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So yeah, focus on that. And also, since you don't need so much to communicate, so start by learning the most used words and phrases in Swedish. If you learn this, you will already be able to communicate a lot. Because most things don't matter to communicate. At least as a beginner. When you get more advanced, you need more, of course. But in the beginning, learn the most used words and phrases. And again, don't waste your time perfecting N and net in the beginning, or things that are not so important. And in our courses, we try to teach Swedish in an efficient way. So we give to our students this list of the most common words and sentences. But you can also, start writing all the words you hear a lot in Swedish. Precis, this word, I always use this. Mm-hmm. Write it down somewhere. And with this, you'll be able to communicate a lot. And now we have come to our tip 10. And this will answer Debbie's question. Mm-hmm. And this is, don't be afraid to ask. Also, something I noticed with my students that progress very fast. Debbie, you were one of them, and that's they're not afraid of asking questions, just like this question we got, because also you learn better this way. So ask, vad betyder? What does this mean? Ask it to every Swede you meet. Hur säger man? How do you say this? Varför? Why? Why is it like this? Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And sometimes they can't answer the question. Then you Google or go to some, try to find out in some way. But don't be afraid to ask. And yes, if you meet a Swede that switches to English when you try to say something in Swedish, then try to ask them as well in a nice way if they please can speak Swedish with you, because you need to practice. And I think that if someone say this to me, or if they say it to my Swedish friends, they will absolutely understand and be fine with it. So a very good sentence is to say this one. Är det okej om vi pratar svenska? Is it okay that we speak Swedish? Jag vill gärna träna. I would love to practice. And if they are the right practice partner, they will absolutely accept this. And this is a very polite way of asking. And also explaining the situation, why you want to practice Swedish with them, because you need to practice. So maybe this tip can help you, Debbie, and the rest.
That's awesome. So, I actually have a question just from earlier with when you were talking about the importance of N or et, and it's not as important to get that correct. One of the other focuses we had in SFE was word order.
Yeah.
To make sure that I can't even explain it. So is that as relevant, or is it not?
I would say word order, because also the word order in English and Swedish is very different. Like we Swedes, we talk more like Yoda from an English perspective. We say today eat I, and still, honestly, Greg, I'm still able to understand even if you don't get the perfect word order. You will sound strange, but I'm still able to understand. But if you say I don't know, bok or bock wrong, as they're two different words. Or glass or glass. It's so much more confusing for a Swede if you don't get the pronunciation right. So yeah.
Wow. Oh,
so maybe we can say pronunciation, word order, and the net, something like that. But again, also depends on your level. If you're very high level, of course, you need to practice and the net as well. So depends on your level.
I have some more. Oh yeah, okay. No, let's finish up with your summary and stuff. No, let's do that.
We'll just very fast. So again, the summary of the 10 tips. I will read them very fast. Find the fun in Swedish. Focus on what's meaningful for you. Expose yourself to Swedish as much as you can. Attack all fronts. Find the right level for you. Focus on communication. Surrender your ego. Practice with the right people. Important things first. And don't be afraid to ask. These are the 10 tips.
Those are really
And
good. Oh, sorry,
thank
go
you, thank you.
ahead.
Almost done. So
Yeah.
again, Fun Swedish Philosophy is based on this. And if you want to learn more Swedish with us, we have different kind of options. I will go through them very fast. So we have Swedish courses for companies where we can go and give you Swedish lessons at work. It's a very appreciated benefits that some bosses or HR people give to their employees. So maybe you can ask them like, oh, can Fun Swedish come and have Swedish lessons with me and my colleagues? That's one way. We also have private courses. Oh, sorry. We have live Zoom courses that you can take after work. We actually have some courses starting in 2 weeks. And you can find all the information on our website, funswedish.com. And we also have like pre-recorded courses. We call them video courses that you can take whenever you are, whatever you want, whatever you want. Whenever you are, whatever you are.
Wherever you are,
Whatever
you
whatever you want. That's
Yeah.
how you say it. Today my English is not on point.
Oh, don't worry
But
about it.
yeah. And then last thing, you can also follow us on social media and YouTube, where we have more than 600 videos about Swedish. And we have one like playlist that is only about pronunciation. So if you
cool.
want to practice, like especially these vowels, check these out. And all this is free. And we have also an Instagram channel and TikTok and Twitter. And now we're also on LinkedIn.
That's right. And I think I tagged you on LinkedIn, so everybody can click on that tag within the description text, and you can go to their LinkedIn page and give them a follow there as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. So now I want to hear your questions, and also if you have any tip you want to share with the group, with us.
Okay,
Great. You want to start?
Let me pop up Mary.
Yeah.
She's been waiting a long time. I
Yeah.
think it's a good question. So I have taken Restart, A1, A2 textbook from the library. My official SFE classes begin in May. Begin in May. But I want to get some basics done right. How can I get the pronunciation of all these Swedish words properly, especially all those vowels and different A, O, and E? That really confuses me a lot.
Yeah, so this is a very good question, and it's so good that you're already noticing that these are tricky and confusing. So you're already focusing on the right thing, pronunciation. And yeah, I really recommend you, if you don't follow us on YouTube, because we have like more than 50 videos. We even go through every vowel, like how you should think, like the tongue position. So just click on this, repeat after what I say, and also try to listen to people. Like if you watch TV and you can see maybe written an O, try to hear how this O sound in Swedish. And something that's very important is to realize that just because it looks like the same letter as in English, the same vowel, or maybe as your mother tongue, it's not the same. Like A in Swedish, A is not A, it's A or A. So it's a completely different sound. So that's the first thing you need to learn, that they are different. And then, of course, you need to practice and train and get the right tongue position and until you get it. It will take some time. Yeah. We call this a duck face. Yeah, you have some tricks.
Or the Stockholm E.
Yeah, you have that as well. So it's a lot of practice, but really we have so much like free content that you can start looking at them. If you just search Fun Swedish and pronunciation playlists, you will be able to find these. But very good. I mean, just to start focusing on this is the first step. Yes, more questions.
Another question from Anna. How do we stay motivated and focused in learning Swedish? What are the best ways to improve our speaking? There's a lot of questions. What is the optimal time to dedicate to learning? I think you answered that last one, in the mornings or in the evenings, maybe.
Yeah. So also very good questions. Thank you, Manon. So again, how do you stay motivated and focused with fun and with meaning? So if you are studying somewhere and you don't feel so motivated, maybe you need to change course or need to change way of picking up the language. Maybe you need to find something that you find fun and meaningful instead. So this is very important to be motivated. Hope that answers your question some way.
Yeah.
So there was another, the second question was, what was
I
that?
was, what are the best ways to improve our speaking?
Oh yeah. So again, find the right practice partner, and also I think also the students that progress really fast, they like listen to the news and just repeat after what they say.
Mm.
If they say like la 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 like det kommer att snöa idag. Det kommer att snöa idag. Just try to repeat after. This is also how kids learn. They repeat after what you say.
That's
So you
true.
need to think again like a kid. Just repeat. You can do this by yourself at home. That's why it's so important also in our lessons. We always focus on the students repeating after us, so they can also try to practice these muscles in your mouth.
It's a really
Yeah.
good idea.
Thank you.
Here's a nice one from Priyanka. Do you want to read it?
Så let's see. Vad är det viktigaste när man pratar svenska? Grammatik eller ordföljd? I mean, grammar is such a broad category, because grammar can be everything from n and at to, I think word order is also kind of grammar, but I think again both with maybe grammar. If you think about plurals and singular, maybe it's a little bit more important to focus on that, because if you say singular, like one thing instead of two things, people can get a little bit confused. While word order, you will sound weird, but you still will be able, I can still understand you, especially since Swedes, most Swedes know that people think like English, and we know how English works. So word order is important, but I can still understand you. But singular, plural, if you mix this up, it can be more confusing. So maybe grammar for this part. But that's my personal opinion. It can also depend on the person and the level.
That's great. For Kishan, are there specific teaching for general IT professionals? Example.
I think SFI has like this specific programs for IT people, but also we have, so when we have like I said, we have courses for companies, and we have many companies in IT sector, tech sector. So we also, when we go and teach them, we prepare specific material for them. So maybe you can write us later if you want us to come to where you work, and then maybe we can like design a program for you, or like vocabulary, like this student that loves kayaks with all the vocabulary but kayaks. We can do this about technical support. But I think also SFI has this program.
I know in the Stockholm region there's the SFX school, and they do have a specific school for IT.
Exactly, which is also free. Exactly. And then also, I mean, you can always watch YouTube videos if you can find something about tech support in Swedish, or maybe that helps as well.
I'm just going to, I think we're narrowing down the questions, and I think I'm just going to double check, because I know Minot had sent some questions earlier on in the previous post. I'm just going to double check. Oh, okay, she repeated it, which is perfect.
Okay, thank you.
And then from Stephanie, she asked, or she said, nice initiative. Any tips on how to progress my professional Swedish in fields like design when there are no courses in Yrkesvenska?
Yeah, exactly. So also here, if I were you, I would like follow all kind of social media accounts Swedish accounts that has to do with design. Maybe that way you can pick up some words. Also, maybe I would write down all the words you want to be able to say in Swedish, like write them down first in your language, and then you trying to translate them to Swedish, or try to find how you say them in Swedish. I think design, we use a lot of English words, so it's going to be easy for you. But maybe you need to do a little bit more like own research to find more design Swedish. And again, of course, we can also help you with that if you want to like a specific course where we only teach you this design vocabulary. But still search on the internet a bit. Hopefully you will find a lot of design expressions, and maybe also talk to friends. If you have Swedish friends that are into design, maybe you can ask them if they can practice Swedish with you and talk about design.
There's like 3 more questions here.
Okay, we can go. I love your questions. They're very good questions, all of them. I'm here to help.
This was an earlier one from Debbie as well. And how should we native English speakers train in order to differentiate and have a more authentic Swedish pronunciation when speaking, particularly using words with the Swedish letters Y, I, U, and O. And then
Yeah.
she gave an example, which I won't even try.
Yeah, yeah, I saw this question as well. So also something that like Lionel did in the beginning, he learned he like every morning he woke up and he said the Swedish vowel in front of a mirror, like a, o, u, o, e,
Wow.
I, a. It's hard. It's horrible in the beginning, and you will sound so weird. But every day, every morning, and again, he tried to. I showed him also like the tongue position, and if you don't have me live, you can watch the videos. So every morning, every night, he did this, like brushing his teeth. A, o, u, o, e, I, a. It's hard, but in the end, again, you're training new muscles, so you need to practice these muscles, and then you will get it in the end. And then also in our like pronunciation course, we also do this. It's like a language. It's like a mouth gym where we train also like a glass, or bus, bus. So just also pick words that have this long and short vowel and try to say them out loud to yourself to see like. So you need to train. You need to train this muscle. So try to do this every day if you can, Debbie. Yeah.
These are great tips and
Thank
great
you.
questions from everybody
Thanks.
as well. This is from
Mm.
Preeti. How can you build confidence to initiate a conversation with native Swedish?
Yeah. And I think this is hard, and again you need to think like a child a bit. Um, so um, so yeah, it's this, I think, one of the hardest parts, but focus on communication again. Try to like not, maybe in the beginning you don't need to say the perfect sentence, just say hey, äta bulle. I don't know, try
Yeah,
to
yeah.
use simple words, and maybe they laugh, but if they laugh they are like bad people to talk to. Try to talk to the next person. And still also, I think most Swedish people, I mean, if you show that you're interested in the language, in the culture, in learning the language, like most people will find that very nice. Most people. And also sometimes it can also be good. It can also be good to find Swedish people that are also learning a language, because they also, maybe they will understand better what you're going through. So also, when I had my Spanish students and my Swedish students at the same time, I sometimes made them meet each other, and it was actually very good because they both understand, the struggle of learning a language and confidence and all that. So maybe you should try to find Swedish people that they're also learning a language, something like that.
This will be the last question for the day, and it might be a little bit difficult to answer for you, Daniela, but
I
I'll
will
show
see.
you. Yeah. Is Swedish
Hmm.
mandatory nowadays to get IT jobs in Stockholm, let's say, for starting
um,
companies?
yeah, I would say it's not mandatory, but I would say that if you want to, if you want to have a higher position in your job, like maybe you want to be part of the board group or things like this, then Swedish is more necessary. So if you want to make a career, then it's better to learn Swedish. It's not mandatory, but they often pick people that know Swedish for the higher positions.
Great.
So I know if
I
you
want
agree, Greg.
to Yeah, I do. I
Mm.
want to thank you very much, Daniela,
Yeah.
for today's conversation, and everybody in the audience as
Yeah.
well. And I can see you can take a look later, Daniela, but there's so many
Yeah.
people saying thank you in there.
Oh no, this it was my pleasure, and I hope to. It's sad I can't see all your faces. I would have loved to see your faces, but
I'll try
maybe
to
we meet.
pop up a few
Yeah,
basically.
and you can also add. Oh, that's sweet. You can also add me on LinkedIn if you want more advice. If you want to ask, if I have time, you can maybe I will have time to answer your questions. And also, if you want to like just some question about Swedish, you can write me as well. And also, you can follow us on Fun Swedish on our social media. But you will learn. You will get free content and exposure to Swedish every day.
Oh, that's like
Uh,
totally awesome, really amazing. We
Yeah,
really
well, this was
appreciate it, Daniela.
fun. Thank you so much,
Um,
Greg, and thank you to all the people behind New to Sweden for
Oh,
this,
no
for
problem
making
at
this
all. No, we're super
possible.
happy to have done this. We're going to say
Thank you.
bye to everybody. And
Yes.
Daniela, if you want, you can hang around just a few seconds afterwards, but
Yeah.
we'll say bye to the audience.
Yes.
And
Hej
we'll see you
då!
next time.
Vi
Hejdå.
ses. Ha det bra. Hej då.
I'm going to echo you,
Yeah.
whatever you say. Ha det
Ja.
bra. Okay,
Hej
see
då,
you.
ha det bra. Hej då.
Bye.
Mm.